This is a super special episode of The Inspiration Show because Matthew Mucha is joining me. Matthew is an incredibly talented performer and holds a BFA from Marymount Manhattan College. He is currently starring on Broadway in Harmony. What an honor it is to have seen you in person on a Broadway stage last week and to get to hug you after you made your principal Broadway debut, and now to get to have you on The Inspiration Show. Thank you so much for joining me. This is so special.
Oh my gosh, of course. You're so kind. Your words after the show, everything. It was so nice meeting you, and I'm thrilled to get to chat with you a little bit more.
You're amazing. So, when did you discover that you had a passion for singing and theater?
So I'm from Jersey, so I've always been close to New York, and one of my good friends growing up was a child actor, now turned adult actor. He was actually Sierra Boggess's Flounder in The Little Mermaid, which is hilarious now that
Love
I'm
that.
working with Sierra and Harmony. It's like so full circle. So I've always been like around it a little bit, but my family has no theater, no. I'd say we're a very athletic family. My dad was a phys ed teacher and a football coach and a football player. My brother works for the New York Giants. So like we had no real like connection to theater in any way. And growing up, I tried playing sports. I played baseball for a little bit. I played football and I hated it and I was terrible at it. So then in middle school, my friends and I, just like as a joke, were like, let's like audition for the musical. It'll be silly and dumb and whatever. And me and my best friend got in and he was like, oh, that was fun. I'm ready to like do another thing. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, this was really fun. And I think I like this a little more than I expected. And from eighth grade on, I was lucky to go to a public school that had a really wonderful musical theater program and straight acting. So we would do Shakespeare, we would do Moliere and everything. And it was just nice to kind of get that baseline of stuff. And now studied it in college, and here I am.
That's amazing. I mean, I relate to that so much. I think, like, as an actor, like, I know a lot of people, and like, personally, we did the sports, we went through the sports route, and we all hated it. And then we all
Yep,
went to theater. And like, I just think it's so funny how you tried out for the musical as a joke. And now, like,
completely.
here you are on Broadway. That's hilarious.
Completely. I would have never, if you told me when I was, what was it, 12, 13 years old, that this would be the life I was living, I would have no idea.
I love that. So, can you take us back to the first time that you experienced theater and how you were feeling at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. So the musical that we auditioned for was Aladdin, and we were doing it in middle school, like I said. And my best friend was playing Aladdin, and I was the genie. And they painted me in blue latex paint, and I had on a black wig, and I had like the whole thing. And I had no idea what to expect. And my personality, I've always been like a bit outgoing and I'm not super shy. I love people. I'm very just like open. So the act of like doing the show, I never really felt nervous. I was just super excited. But what I didn't anticipate doing it that first time was how much I would really love performing and also just rehearsing and working on a show. And I just remember throughout all my experiences prior to theater, whether it was sports or a different type of like extracurricular, I never felt like I clicked with it as much. And then something about the, the vibe of theater, the people that are drawn to that, the fact that it takes 1,000 people to make one thing happen is my favorite. And I just was elated by the end of it to realize like, oh, I think I found my place. And I think this is what I want to do.
Yeah, no, like theater is so special. And I don't know if you had this experience, but for me personally, it kind of just felt like the stage was calling. Like from such a young age, I was
Hmm.
always on the stage and I was like, okay, this is my jam. And then like the
Yeah.
people that theater brings into your life, they become a second family. And it's the most special thing ever because as you said, it takes so many people to make a show
Yes.
happen. And you get so close with everyone, no matter if you're in scenes with them or like they're the crew, directors, stage managers. It's so special to create
Hmm.
those relationships and they last a lifetime.
It's crazy. Like if you think about like sports for an example, if you're on a high school football team, you'll play with those people for 4 years. That'll be your base for 4 years. If you're at a regular corporate job, you work there for 20 years. Those are the people that are there. With theater, and you go from show to show, and it's like you make a family, then you never see, then you make a family, then and then you kind of take people from each one that you connect with the most, and that's like where our friend groups end up. And I think it's so special to get to meet and work with so many people and then make that chosen family along the way.
Yeah, and it's so special that you also get to work with all those new different people because you get to be inspired and, you learn
Yes,
different lessons from different people, and it's so special to get to have that.
absolutely.
So you are a graduate of Marymount Manhattan College's BFA Acting Musical Theater program. So what was your
Yes.
experience like in that program, and how do you feel that it helped shape you into the performer that you are today?
It was interesting. It's so funny at like talkbacks or with things where I talk to people that are about to go into college for musical theater or asking questions about it. It's always a mixed bag because some people think, should I just go and audition? Should I go to school? I wanted a education and a degree to have just a baseline of that, whether it was in theater or in something else that would just give me that college experience. But I also knew that I wasn't somebody that felt the need to like go far from home and go to a state school and have like a big college experience. Like I knew I wanted to be somewhere in New York or somewhere that had a theater scene. And Marymount was really lovely in a way that it was a small school. Um, at the time when I was there, I think they changed it now. There was a BA in theater arts, musical theater, and then a BFA in acting, and you couldn't do both at the same time. And I originally auditioned for the school and was not accepted musical theater, but I was accepted straight into the BFA program. So I was like, okay, I'll do that, and then I'll see if I could re-audition. And in our first month at school, I was cast in a production of Spelling Bee, and the head of the MT program was like, "Why aren't you in the MT program?" And I was like, "Well, you didn't let me into the MT program." So then they kind of helped me mishmash a degree that was I ended up kind of like double majoring in a way in the musical theater and the BFA acting. So I was lucky for all 4 years to get daily dance training and voice training and everything. But also I took Shakespeare classes, I took language classes, I took movement classes. So it was a good like mix of all of that. And I think the connections you make at school are huge. I think being in the city was huge. Like I said, I'm from Jersey, so I grew up close, but living here is a beast in itself. And I learned how to ride the subway and I learned where the best food was and how to navigate New York, which now as someone who's lived here, God, I started living here when I went to school and it's been like just under 10 years. So I've lived in the city for almost 8 or 9 years now. And I feel like this is home. And I think being at Marymount and having New York as my campus and everything really set me up for success with that.
Yeah, I call New York my second home too. I mean, I feel like I'm a whole new person when I'm in the city.
Yeah,
I love it so much. It's such a special place, and just, getting to walk through the theater district, it's like nothing you've ever done before.
it's
I
crazy.
love
Yeah.
it. I love it. So, you have been a part of many national tour productions and many regional theater productions. So, looking back on every show you've ever been in and every role you've ever played, is there any specific like show, role, or memory that stands out to you?
I'll do show first. I did the first and only first tour of a bandstand back in 20, I think it was end of 2018, because then COVID shut us down in early 19 or 19 to 20, I forget. And it was one of those things where just like the show clicked with me and the audition process went really well and I felt really confident about it. And then, like we were saying before, how you kind of make these chosen families throughout the way. The guys on bandstand that were in our Donny Nova band have become some of my closest friends that I have like an Instagram meme chat with that we talk every day. And these are people that I can go months without seeing them, but they hold such a special place in my heart. And bandstand as a show itself, getting to really work with the TAPS organization and with vets and get to feel like we were doing something bigger than just putting on a show was really special. And it was my first tour and I had never done that before. So I was excited and young and it was cool to, sleep on a bus and be in a hotel. And I saw so much of the country, which was amazing. Um, and then role, I got to play Huey in Memphis in North Carolina a few years ago. And it was a show that I'd loved when I saw it on Broadway. It was a role that I always thought would be so fun. And a friend of mine, the girl playing my Felicia, has become a really good friend of mine, and she's currently in Hamilton. She's been in Hamilton for a while, and she was a really good mentor to kind of teach me at a young age, like this is how to take care of yourself as a lead in the show. This is things to do that'll keep yourself centered, and how to really get through an 8 show week when it's super demanding, and things I've taken on now. And the role of Huey is just blast. Like you kind of get to be a firecracker and do what you want within the parameters of the show. So the fun I had doing that was something I won't forget.
That's such a special role, and I love how you said that Felicia, like, kinda took you under your wing, like, I experienced that too, like, with the Dear Evan Hansen cast and, like, with the
Hmm.
Bright cast, like, even though I wasn't in the shows, like, I am an actor myself, so to have them, like, take me under their wings and, like, show me how they get ready for a show and kinda, like, what they do to prepare, I think it impacted me so much as an actor, and, like, you learn
Hmm.
so many things from the people that you work closely with or the people that you admire, and it's so special to see how what they do can shape you in what you do, and it's really special.
Totally. Totally.
So, you have also done some work in film and TV, such as The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. In your opinion, is there a difference between how you portray roles on screen versus how you do them on stage?
Yeah, it's funny. So for like the TV film stuff I've done, TV has mostly been like, those one of 500 background extra. You either make it or you don't. And that world, especially I did Maisel twice. The first time I did it, if you've seen the show, she plays at a USO and it's like an airport hangar of, I think we broke the record that day for the most like on stage extras in a shot or something. It was like 1,000 men in their army uniforms and everything, and I had never done it. I was like right out of college, and a friend of mine and I were in it together. And it's wild how it's so fast compared to theater. Theater feels so long. You rehearse for hours, you tech for hours, previews, opening. The TV side, at least being in a small role comparatively, was like, okay, you get there, here's your clothes, here's where you're standing. She knows what she's doing, they know what they're doing, action, go. And then you get it, and then you're finished. And you're like, I don't even know what I did. And like short film things that I've done too have felt that way, where you do it and it also takes so long for it to be edited and made, so then you kind of are like, I don't even remember what it was. So like the process of it is interesting because you don't see that product, or you don't get to, I guess, connect with it on as long of a level as theater. I definitely prefer theater, and I've worked in theater much more than TV film. So I think there's something about like the prep for it and then what the actual work is. Like I just like theater because I like that it's live every night and it's a little different every night, and people bring in something new, whether they had a bad day and then they come in and they're a little something. It's my job to still do the show but work with them where they're at. So yeah, so I'd say theater is my it's definitely my jam.
Yeah, theater has our hearts
Yeah,
always.
big
So,
time.
you are currently making your Broadway debut in Harmony, and I got to be in the audience when Matthew made his principal Broadway debut as Young Rabbi. What a magical night it was. I know I tell you this all the time, but your performance was beyond incredible. Truly cannot be described with words, and it will stick with me for a long time. So, for those who don't know, Harmony tells the true story of six men who were comedian harmonists in Germany in the 1920s, and they sold millions of records and they gained lots and lots of fame. But by 1935, they were never heard from again. And what happens next is the story of Harmony. So you were a part of the Workshop for Harmony as well as its off Broadway run, and you're now got to bring the show to Broadway. So can you share a little bit about your Harmony journey and what it was like leading up to this point?
Yeah, it's so funny to hear like there's been so many stages of it, and
Mm.
to be in this stage, which feels like Broadway is the thing and we made
Yeah.
it and it's open and we're here and it's amazing. I remember getting the audition for a self tape for it. I think it was a little over 2 years now, like summer of 2021, I think. And I had never heard of the show. I'd known that it was like out there and that it's been done regionally, and they tried to bring it to New York, but it never followed through. And I remember getting in the audition, it was originally for ensemble and then Young Rabbi understudy. And then they just sent the script and they sent the music to every single day. And I was working front desk at like a Pilates gym, and I was reading the script and I just was gutted by it. I was so moved just from reading, just like, which I always think like if something can do it and it's just words on a page, that goes a huge way. Cause then imagine, costume, lighting, music, everything. And I knew regardless, I wanted to see the show. I was excited about the show, and I just felt lucky to have a chance to be in it. So audition process went well, callbacks went well. I originally downtown was cast as a swing, and then the day before rehearsals started, they reached out to my agents and said, somebody is no longer with the production. we're going to take Matthew from being a swing, we're going to put him in the ensemble and cover the role of Harry. Great, cool, let's go. Sounds great. Off Broadway starts. It's such a special process. We're working with Bruce Sussman. We're working with Barry Manilow, Warren Carla. I mean, the team is top notch, and it was wonderful to treat it as a new piece, even though it's been around for a while, and to work with people that I've looked up to since I was a kid. I mean, Chip Zion, Sierra Boggess. I've watched that that Into the Woods recording of Chip
So many
Into the
times.
Ground. I've watched Sierra's 25th anniversary Phantom until Netflix told me I like couldn't watch it anymore. I
Yep.
mean, I have just like loved the two of them for so long. So getting to not only like watch them work, but be included in their work was so special. And then during the downtown run, it was right when I think it was Omicron or it was Delta COVID, I forget which strain, really started picking up again. So we were all getting nervous. And a few days after we opened, Zal Owen, who plays Harry in the Broadway production, played Harry off Broadway, got COVID and was out for 10 shows or 10 days or something. So I was the only understudy downtown, and I went on for Harry for just shy of, I think, 10 shows or 11 shows. And it was wild, and I didn't think it would happen. And I remembered being originally a swing and now being here. And it was really exciting. And then we did the workshop a little over a year ago now, and it was slated as pre-Broadway, but we didn't really know if it was Broadway soon, Broadway later. And then they announced the show this past spring, came in and re-auditioned, was in for a different track than where I am now. And I'm just beyond thrilled to have been with it for so long, and to have the history that I have with it and be able to be part of its journey and its final destination on Broadway has been incredibly special.
And that must have been so cool for you to kind of like see how the show evolved. And like I know when you go through like rehearsal processes and like off Broadway versus Broadway, like a lot of the blocking changes and like
Mm-hmm.
some of the lines will change and like some things that like didn't fly off Broadway or like vice versa. But what was it
Totally.
like for you kind of like getting to watch the show evolve and like you said, step into all the different roles and especially because it's a true story, kind of, looking at it from all those different perspectives.
Totally. I mean, as the show changing, it's so that's what I've learned. I think I love the most about the Broadway process so far has been previews and just watching what gets changed, what gets a good reaction, a bad reaction, where we change it, and then just doing it night after night. I mean, they're downtown in previews. There were two songs that are not in the Broadway production. There were scenes that were not in the Broadway production. There were things moved around. During our workshop, we kind of redid some things. Broadway, we've redone some things and cut huge production numbers and everything, just to get it to its best version of the story. And going off of what you said, it's a true story, and I think that's always been at the heart of our entire company, especially our creative team's mind, to make sure that no matter what we're doing, it's to serve in the memory of these guys, in the importance of the story. How best can we tell this story through theater? And it's tricky because people make big production numbers and they think that they're the best thing in the world, and then you realize that it should be a scene instead, or it should just be 16 bars as a transition. And our creative team going through that, I don't envy that position because it's hard and it's stressful. But watching the process of the show change was so exciting, to where it's finally at its place now that feels so solid. It feels like the tightest, best version of the show, and it still delivers the story of the comedian harmonists that we're trying to honor each night.
Yeah, it's such an important and special and timely story. So, to get to have that be told on a Broadway stage was so special. And it was
Yeah.
so special to see. Like, it is such an important show. And I'm so happy that it's being told and that you get to do it.
Thank you. That's so sweet.
So, you kind of touched on this just a little bit, but when you were first given the script for this incredible piece of theater, how did you approach it and interpret it? Like knowing that it's real and that these were real characters and it's a true story. So how did
Yeah,
you approach that differently to like I don't want to say a regular script, but something that's not based off of a true.
totally. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole level of research that goes into it that just differs from, if you're doing next to normal,
Yeah.
it's a different beast than something like Harmony, just in terms of, these are characters that are made for the stage versus real life people. And what I attached most to our show was Chip's character's point of view, being the older version of one of the six harmonists. And his final monologue is just I mean, it knocks you out at the end. It is,
Yeah, I was
I like cry thinking about it.
I was a
It's,
mess.
yeah. And the fact that that is just 10 minutes of straight facts and history and real things. And I remember reading the script and getting to that moment and feeling so inspired and upset and warmed by the entire trajectory of the story. And I think what the show does so well is in that last 10 minutes, it reminds you that these were people. You watched us sing and dance for 2.5 hours, but then Chip just tells you in plain English right in front of you, Harry went back to Germany. And then you think about how much that would have taken a human being to do. And then he died with a suitcase under his bed. Like that's a real human thing. And, Chopin dying and asking, for him to keep looking for Ruth. And, like it's all of those things that you realize that it's real and that it happened and that the history feels far, but it's not. And unfortunately, the issues that were happening then are happening now and continue to happen. So I think it requires research and care to do a show like this. And I think just the weight of it, like you said, feels so heavy, so it makes us feel responsible to tell the story and do the research that we're doing it as accurately as possible.
Yeah, because they always say that like when you're acting, you're telling a true story, but sometimes the things that you act are fictional. So when
Yes.
you're being handed a script, knowing that you're playing someone who actually existed and you're telling the story of their life is the most special thing to get to do. And it is so hard. And I always say that the mountains that are the hardest to climb are the most rewarding.
Hmm.
It's so special to get to see you guys tell this true story, especially with everything that's going on right now. To have these lessons be told and to have these stories of the people known and shared on Broadway, it's so special and it is such an impactful show.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. It feels good from us doing it, and we've heard so many kind words from people that feel really moved by it. So we're happy that it's here and that people are seeing it and that people are walking away feeling touched by it.
Yeah, and I recommend to everyone watching, go see the show and don't forget your tissues.
Yes.
That's the
Yes.
first mistake if you go see the show without tissues. So, how does it make you feel to be telling this story on a Broadway stage? And what elements of the show have inspired you? And what are some positive messages and life lessons that you've taken away from Harmony so far? Because you've had so much time to sit with it and now be doing it.
Totally. I mean, from just like a total personal level, like I was raised Jewish, I was bar mitzvahed, I I'm Jewish, so to be able to be in this show and be able to bring it to, a massive platform like Broadway at the time that we're in right now feels incredibly important. It's connected me to my, relationship with my Judaism more throughout our process, which, was unexpected but really lovely. And it just feels like something that should be told, and I feel really honored to be a small part of the machine that gets to bring the story to Broadway. I think like the biggest things that I've gotten from the experience itself have been things I've learned from, people like Chip, people like Julie Vanko, people like Sierra. And it's watching these people that have worked so beautifully in our space for so long. I feel like they're always teaching, even though they are consciously not. Chip doesn't walk in thinking like, I'm going to give a masterclass today. We just watch him and I pick up on things like the way he dissects a scene, or will be like, can I try this completely ridiculous thing? And then it lands and it's hilarious. And I'm like, where did your brain come up with that? And how did you get to that? And it's wild to see. And similarly with people like Sierra and Julie, like how they navigate the work and dive into the scenes and make as much as they can out of the script and the songs that they're given to really make a performance. It's been inspiring to see as a performer and as someone that has looked up to them for so long. It's like, I like pinch myself when I'm in a room with all of them and I'm like, how did I end up here? This is crazy.
Yeah, like personally, as a young Jewish girl, to get to see that reflected on stage was
Hmm.
amazing. But as a young Jewish actor, to see Jewish actors on a Broadway stage telling this story was so special. Like I will never forget the show. To get to watch you all, besides all the crying, I'm just like, that was so incredibly done. And it's such
Hmm.
a dance heavy show. Like I didn't expect
Yeah.
to be that dance
That's
heavy, honestly.
That's Warren Carlyle and Sarah Edward,
Yeah.
man. They are, I
He's
mean, they're
amazing.
incredible. I mean, their resume speaks for themselves. But what's so nice is, we talked about this a lot in rehearsal, how act one of our show has to entertain you and it has to make you believe that these guys were who they were. And then act two is that unfortunate, collision with reality. And I think what's nice with our show too is you get the heavier moments in the second act, and it of course connects to the fact um, that three of these guys were Jewish. But then in Act One, like there's so much humor in the fact that they're Jewish. Like Rabbi gets to have so many incredible little zingers and one-liners and like little like Yiddish isms and Jewish isms that come out that are really lovely to see celebrated. I think sometimes when you tell a story about people that are oppressed, whoever it may be, it's easy to live in the negative of it. And I think our show does a really lovely job of showing that there are hard times, but there's also so much humor and beauty in that. So I love that Harmony gets to be like unashamedly Jewish in like the best ways. Like Rabbi's eating a sandwich, he's throwing out little, like little quips here and there. And I'm like, yeah, that's how like my grandma talked. Like, of course, that's how he's gonna talk, Like I love that part of it.
I love that, and I know it was such a master class because 'cause I've looked up to Julie and Sierra and Chip for so
Hmm.
long. So, to get to see everyone, and I'm just like, "You are a master class in acting," and I'm pretty sure you know this, but I know Julie, like, Julie was on the show a while ago.
Oh, no way.
So,
Oh,
like,
amazing.
I went to see Julie, and I was like, I left the biggest Matthew fan. It was like, I'm obsessed. No, you were. It was amazing. And like
Oh, it's so
that
nice.
show, and like branching off of what you said, like that show is such a roller coaster of emotions because you are
Yeah.
crying because that's what that story brings. And then the number with the water, I was crying, laughing.
It's a good one.
It was so funny.
and
And
that's and that's one that from downtown changed completely to Broadway. Downtown, it was still the same idea of how can I serve you, and they were in the waiters uniforms and there were the plates. And then downtown there was a different version of what happened. And then when we got into the workshop and rehearsal, our director Warren Carlyle was like, how can we do one thing more, and then how can we take that and do it even more and more and more, until finally he's like, what if we just have a pitcher of water and then seltzer bottles and we're like, you can't do that on stage, like it'll get wet. He's like, who cares? It's funny. And then the first night that we had our first preview and audiences saw that number and we got the reaction that we did, it was just the best feeling because we were like, we got it. And it's exactly that thing of serving up that high comedy and that incredible entertainment and then cutting it with the unfortunate reality of what happened to these guys.
yeah. Like me being the actor, and recently I've had the opportunity to step into the roles of like director and producer. And
Oh,
me
fun.
during that number, I was like, oh my God, what's gonna happen? Like there's water, like are they gonna mop it? Like you can't dance, it's a dance heavy show, you're gonna slip, you're
Yep.
gonna fall. And I was like,
Yep.
this is perfect. And then when they came on with the brooms, I was laughing so
Well, because we were wondering during previews, we're like, okay, we're gonna shoot water. There's gonna be water all over the stage, and then there was a version originally in previews where Warren was like, we'll have a couple people with in their jumpsuits with the mops, and they'll do like a quick swipe while Chip gives a little moment. And then we just couldn't get all the water because there was so much, and you just have to, Warren's like, we're
yeah,
not going to change
yeah.
it. So what do we do? And he's like, you know what? Let's lean into the fact that there's water. So let's get everyone with a mop, including Chip in his underwear, who comes down center stage with the mop. And it's adding to that level of like, we're not shying away from it. Like, yes, it's water. Yes, it's wet. Here's how we're going to fix it. And you're part of it. It's from Rabbi's point of view. And in his point of view, he was mopping the stage afterwards. And that's how we're going to deliver it. And I think it works really, really well.
I also just have to say, like, props to the writers. They are legends. I mean, with the rabbi and then having young rabbi and have that be like the center of the story, if you will, I was like, that is genius.
Which is amazing because in all the other versions of Harmony, the version of Old Rabbi never existed. It used to
No way.
be. So the way that the show was originally written, to my knowledge, from what I've heard from previous productions and from Bruce, is that the story was narrated from Young Rabbi, but it was Young Rabbi the whole time. So it was him telling the story from his point of view. I believe he did the Threnody in Act Two, like the big number on the train. That was Young Rabbi's song. And then during the pandemic, when Bruce and Warren and Barry were kind of having their weekly meetings, I want to say it was Bruce Sussman, our book writer, who said, like, I'm going to throw out this idea and I just want to see if it'll stick. And he wrote a version of the show where Young Rabbi was the narrator, and then a version where an older version of Rabbi was part of it. And immediately they just knew, like, that
Yeah.
clicks. And then to get someone like Chip in there who just brings like an unbelievable sense of warmth and care and humor to it. Like, I cannot picture the show any other way, let alone with Chip at the helm of it. So I think you're so right. That point of view from him is just, it just hits the nail right on the head.
No, it was so unique, and it was like nothing I've ever seen before, and I just thought the way that it was told, I truly can't use words to describe it. I feel like I'm just rambling, but it was so special to see how those perspectives were done, and I think it made the impact of the story even stronger, even though it was
Mhm.
already so strong.
Yeah, it's an interesting show and time period. We've talked about this in rehearsal, because anyone coming into the show that hears the premise of, 1930s Germany and three of these guys are Jewish, you know exactly where we're going.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we all know the history. So in rehearsal, all the time, Warren would say to us, "We cannot play that. Audiences will fill in the blanks for themselves." There's a moment in the scene with Mary and Ruth in the tailor shop where Mary
Yeah.
says, "What if it gets bad here?" And Ruth's like, "It won't. It's Germany. Like, and we're fighting it. Like, we're gonna be fine." The audience has the reaction of like, "Oh my God, they have no idea." But we have to play, blind optimism and joy, because that's what they would have known at the time. And I think the point of view of Rabbi is so interesting, because he's coming at telling the story from a happy place, but is also burdened with the knowledge of what's coming. And that's why, as the show goes through, he doesn't want to keep telling the story. He doesn't want to get to the point on the train. He doesn't want to get to telling what happened to these guys until he finally realizes what a blessing it was to live
Yeah.
that life that he had.
And my favorite thing, though, I have to say, that closing number with the stars in the night, with all the lights and the symbolism throughout the lights within the show, and then having that be the closing number, I was like, oh my goodness. Like,
It's a
I
good
had
one.
chills the
Yeah,
entire time. Like, we all walked out of that theater, and then, we came to stage door to see Julie, and then got to see you. And we were all crying, and I was like, I have to stop crying. Like, we have to take pictures.
that's us all the time. Rehearsal room previews. It's like some nights I'm like, I can't let it hit me tonight. And then I'll just watch and I'm like, all right, I'm going to just sob for 20 minutes.
Yeah. And I
It's
know
hard
for
not to.
you, like, sometimes do you watch the show, like, from the monitors when you're not on sometimes?
Yeah, so it's fun. So this is my first experience swinging. I've never been a swing before, so it's been kind of a fun learning process. And some days I'll watch the show, I'll like go into the back of the orchestra and I'll just watch, and I'll kind of like keep track of what I'm trying to focus on, whether it's, the Young Rabbi track or it's one of the ensemble tracks. And if not, it's the show is on the monitor in our dressing rooms. There are video monitors in our stage management office, so we get to like pick and choose. Like, one day I'll run the show upstairs, one day I'll watch it like it's a movie, one day I'll just like listen in and close my eyes and speak the line. So it's a little different every day.
Yeah, that's so fun. And I know for swinging, I used to always ask all the Evan Hansen boys, because a lot of the boys covered Evan, Jared, and Connor. Are
Oh,
you
wild.
ever, yeah, like, are you ever on stage and you have those moments where it's like, okay, I'm on as Young Rabbi, but I don't know the next Young Rabbi line, but I know the next Harry line. Like, what's going on? Do you ever have that moment where you're like, oh my God, like, where's my brain?
It's funny, like, it's, and it sounds strange, but in terms of like this show and the amount of work, I think I've been more nervous to go on in one of the ensemble tracks than I did for Young Rabbi, in a way that I've been with the show now for like 2-ish years. So like the music, the lines, the rhythm of it feels so second nature to me.
Yeah.
In which, like, there were, I mean, that Friday when I went on, we did a full, I walked through the show with our dance captain, our stage manager, and I never opened the script. And I realized, I was like, I haven't looked at the lines yet. Like I know them, but I haven't like done the work to look through it. And then as I got on stage, I was like, I know it all, because it just, I hear it every day. It's in there. I've done the work for it, and I know his point of view. The ensemble stuff is sometimes like, oh, you move a piano at this point in the dark, and then
Right.
like, so that stuff, sometimes I'm like, what do I move next? Or like,
Yeah.
who move, like, who dances stage left versus stage right? And being on in one of those ensemble tracks, sometimes I'll be like, okay, I'm gonna watch what he's doing, because I also need to know what that is. So I'll
Right.
see him and I'll, just like keep it all somewhere in my
Yeah.
brain.
Like, I recently had that experience, like, I was normally very thorough with, like, learning my lines, and then when I'm in rehearsal, sometimes I'll have the script in my hand and I won't even look at it and be like, "I never actually took the time to learn my lines, yet I know them." Like, this is crazy.
It's so weird. Like when you're around it so much, it's like that osmosis that comes in. And
Yeah,
I think all of us, especially if like, we've been with the show now, rehearsals, previews, everything. We could all close our eyes and say probably every line as a massive monologue without even
yeah,
realizing that it's in there. You just like without knowing it just kind of seeps in.
yeah. So I'm going off on a tangent here, but take us
Mhm.
through that Friday. Let's go back to November 17th, because I know what that day looked like for you because we talked about it, but you found out you were going on what I think you said, like, 2:45 for the 7 o'clock show.
Yes.
Take us through that day.
Yes.
I'm so curious.
It was crazy. I was walking home from the gym. I was on the phone with my brother, and we were just talking about, oh, I have a show tonight, whatever, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah. And I got a call incoming from my stage manager, and that usually means, you're on, there's an emergency, whatever. So I told my brother, I was like, let me take this, I'll call you back. And it was our great stage manager, Scott Rawson, who just said like, hey, so here's the deal. Danny is out tonight and we're going to put you on for Young Rabbi. How quickly can you get the theater? And thankfully, the gym I go to is close to my apartment and I was like a block away. And my brain just started racing in terms of like prioritizing what I need to do. I was like, I have to shave my beard because I usually have a beard and I didn't. I was like, I have to shave my beard. I have to take a shower and I just need to get there. And he's like, okay, get in an Uber when you can. Let me know when you're here. So I like race down, and then as I'm shaving, I'm on the phone with my fiance, who just how luck has been every time I've swung on, she's not been in the state. She's been working in Connecticut or was at a bachelorette party. So we joked as she was leaving that morning to go to Connecticut. She's like, "You're gonna go on for someone today." And I was like, "Nah, I don't think so, whatever." And then I text her and I'm like, I don't, I'm not joking. And I'm so sorry this is happening, but it's the big one. And I kind of need you to turn around on the train and come back. So she's like, okay, fine. She changed her plans, came back. And then I kind of enlisted her to like tell the world and like tell my family, make sure my friends know if they want to come. So then I got to the theater around like 3:45 ish. And they sent me immediately down to wardrobe because I had never worn, I've been fitted for all of my Young Rabbi stuff, but I'd never really had them on. I'd never talked through the quick changes with anyone. Um, as a swing, you have the advantage of being able to trail backstage as much as you want. So I've trailed Danny and known where all of his changes happen so that I'm aware of it. But the act of physically taking your boots off, taking
Yeah.
this off, going into the late, all of it is so different. So we did a little bit of a wardrobe session, which brought us to like 4:15 ish or so. And I never wanted to know what time it was because I knew if they told me, I would just start to panic.
Yep, I'm the same.
So yeah, I was like, don't tell me. I was like, just let me know when it's half hour and then I'll do what I need to do. And then our dance captain came in and was like, what do you want to do? And I pretty much just told her, I was like, I'm going to get on stage and just talk through everything. And I just need you to tell me where I'm missing holes, if I'm doing something incorrectly, if I'm on a different number. And we kind of did like a loose walkthrough of the show. And I felt good about that. I felt like I knew where I was going. I knew that, safety wise, everything would be good. And then they had a little quick change rehearsal with me. And then I think it was like 6 o'clock, and we did lift call and we did some stuff on stage with the harmonists. We did the speed dining sequence of how can I serve you with the water just to get those counts right. We did Hungarian Rhapsody just for spacing to make sure that that was all good. And then our stage manager was like, okay, it's half hour, go upstairs, do your hair, they'll have someone come up and put you in the mic. And then when we go, we'll go. And I didn't really have like time to panic. And I wasn't nervous in the sake of like, oh gosh, can I do this? I was more so just like, I know I've done my work for this. I just need to like take a breath, enjoy whatever tonight's going to be. And there was a moment right before the show started that, so when you come into the theater, there's the massive curtain of the art piece with the comedian
Yeah,
harmonists. And right before the overture starts, the stage manager tells us to go out and we all stand behind the curtain and we,
right,
get
yeah.
into our position.
Yeah, yeah.
And Stephen Telsey, who plays Lesh, just like looked at me and he was like, this is happening. And I was like, oh, and then for like 30 seconds, I was like, okay, this is like there's nothing between me and the show but this curtain that's gonna drop and suck into the ground, and then we're gonna go. And I had like a nice deep breath moment right then to be like, I've done all I can, and here I am, and I trust these guys on stage with me. I trust that, everyone's got my back, and we did the show, and it was wild, and it was magical and exhausting, and I ate so much afterwards because my body was just like starved of energy and nutrients. But it was a wild day.
No, it was beyond perfection. Like I was
Very
just so
sweet of you to
honored
say.
that I got to be in the audience for it. I was so so happy.
It
So
was it was it was something else. I will never
yeah,
never forget that.
no, it was a very special night. So alongside from understudying Young Rabbi and being a
Hmm.
swing, you are also the fight captain at Harmony. So can you share with us a bit more about what that entails and a little day in the life with all your different roles at the show?
Yeah. I wear a bunch of hats over at Harmony, which is fun.
Which is
Swing,
kind of
understudy.
ironic because you're wearing your Harmony hat right now.
Of course, I love this one. It's great.
Always.
As the fight captain, it's similar to the role of a dance captain in terms of dance captain will go through lift call, check for safety, make sure that choreography is correct and as tight as it should be. Fight captain is similar in the sake that if there's any fight choreography in the show, a slap, a push, a shove, a punch, we'll have a fight call. I'll be the one there to go over it, make sure that everyone feels safe, make sure that the counts are correct. It's been interesting with Harmony because there was a huge sequence in the song Our Time that there used to be, before Julie made her big entrance and started belting downstage center, there was a huge fight and flag sequence. So there were ensemble members that were thrown on stage, and there were punches thrown, and there were flags being whipped around, and it just didn't serve the story as best as we thought. So it ended up getting cut throughout previews. But when that was still in the show, at the top of fight call, I'd have everyone come in. Is everyone feeling physically well? If someone had like a shoulder injury, we would not grab the shoulder as much. We'd pivot to a chest or something different. Now in the show, there's about two moments that are considered for fight call. There's a moment where between Julie and one of our ensemble members, and then a moment between Julie and Blake where there's just physical altercations that happen. So I always make sure to check in with them, make sure that they feel safe. If they ever want to look at it, um, we can go through it. But yeah, fight captain is interesting. I had never done it before, so when the title came in, I was just excited, and we had a great team come in and kind of give us like a 101 on everything that set us up for success. And it's been fun, flexing all the different muscles over at the Barrymore.
Oh, so much fun.
Yeah.
And do you have a favorite and most challenging part about being in the cast of Harmony? And can you share your favorite scene and memory from the show so far?
Yeah. Um, your first question was the hardest thing,
Your
right?
favorite and most challenging.
Favorite. Okay. Favorite and most challenging are probably one and the same. I love the song Hungarian Rhapsody. I think it is so them. It's just six people with music and with dance just being incredibly intricate and funny. And the fact that we go from playing fake guitars to doing a can to doing the Hava Nagila to doing, knee turns around. It's by far the most fun. But that sequence from the start of Act Two with We're Going Loco into Hungarian Rhapsody, into the scene with Standartenführer, into Fatherland is like a
So good.
marathon.
Yeah.
I vividly remember downtown when I went on for Harry, getting to Fatherland and being like, how does he sing this every night? You just did two production numbers, the hardest scene in the show acting wise, and now you have to be a puppet and jump on a box and hang from, like, it's crazy. So it's the hardest in terms of just like adrenaline and stamina and being smart. But I think it's my favorite too, because you feel just like in it. And it's I think it's a great example of what the show does so well, because Hungarian is pure just entertainment. It's just, by the end of it, the audience is going nuts, you're clapping and cheering, and then it's cut immediately with Standartenführer and the Nazi youth in the audience. And it just completely does that switch.
That mood
So
switch.
that's
For sure.
yeah, and that's yeah, and it's it's taking everyone from such a high point of elation to that reality crashing through. So that's my favorite and hardest part. And then favorite memory was what you asked next, right?
Memory, favorite scene. You got
Oh gosh.
it.
Favorite memory, favorite scene. I love I mean, I think one of my favorites, it's going to probably be the same together, is that final Chip monologue. The first time I ever saw him do it in rehearsal and then on stage with the tech of everything, it's really special to see. I've not experienced a lot of shows where the final sequence is silence and one person speaking for 10 minutes. You could hear a pin drop in that theater. There are no phones going off, there's no one coughing, there's nobody shut. Like, he has you in the palm of his hand, and it is so incredibly special to watch. And as an actor, to watch somebody just be up there and be incredibly open, and the audience feels so comfortable with Chip. Watching him do that for the first time was like, I felt like a spell was cast over me, and I feel like he does that every night.
Every night. Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, I definitely felt that as well.
yeah.
I just want to ask, like, kind of like tangent kind of question, like looking back on everything that you've done, was there anything specific that you think like that inspired you to be a performer, like kind of sparked it, or like someone who's been an inspiration to you?
Yeah, it's funny. Like growing up, like I said, like in a house and a family that then, like, now my family is all theater. They come and see everything I'm in. They always want to go see stuff. So like they're big, thespians now. But like back then, like there was nothing really there. But my mom's mom, my grandma, who passed in the summer of 2020, was like my big Jewish grandma, who was the most, full of life person in the world. And she, growing up, would put on little plays, and at like her community center, she would put on Yiddish versions of like classic fairy tales that she would write and then just like put them on. So there was like, Schmutzerella instead of Cinderella. There was Pocahontas instead of Pocahontas. And
Oh,
I think whatever like special sauce she had kind of found its way to me. And I've always felt really special and connected to her. So I think whatever, personality stuff I get from her that kind of led me theatrically into this world, I owe to her. And I'm sad that she's not here anymore to be physically here for all of this that's going on with Harmony, but I have a picture of her at my dressing room. My fiance got me a letter that I hadn't seen in years, framed for opening, that is super special. So she's my, aside from I'm lucky I have a wonderful family, but she's someone that I really keep close to me throughout all of this.
oh, that's the sweetest. Like, your family is incredible. I had the pleasure of, getting to meet them. And like, I even turned to my mom after the show and like just to see how your mom was feeling, because I was standing next to her when you came out stage door, and like just to see how your mom was feeling. Like, I turned to my mom and I was like, I really hope I can make you feel that way. Like, it was
You will,
it
100%.
was the most special thing to get to see your mom and your dad like just be so supportive, because truly with theater, you can't do anything without the
No,
support. So,
no.
to get to see that was so, so special.
Yeah, I told them on day one of rehearsal, I was like, it's like I'm here. I did the audition, I did the everything, but I was like, you guys never said no to this. You guys supported me moving to New York and getting a degree in something that is not typical. And I was like, as much as this is because of work I've done, I was like, none of what I was doing could have been done without them. And I just feel wildly, wildly lucky.
100%. So, looking back on everything you've achieved in this industry, what advice would you give to your younger self entering the industry?
I think growing up, and I think a lot of people do this growing up, you look up to people and you want to emulate that. You want to be Brian Darcy James, you want to be, Stephen Pasquale, and all of that. And I think growing up, I didn't have a sense of self as a performer. I kind of would latch on to like parts of other performers that I liked and was like, oh, I could do that. So I'll just do that. And what I've learned over the past few years, especially in Harmony, is just trusting in like what I have to give is more than enough. And also there is no other me. So why not be me? And then, you know, I'm inspired by these greats that I look up to in this industry, but they're all little pieces of what I'm going to bring to the table. So I think I would just tell myself to like trust in yourself. You're more than enough to get through it, and look on those calls for inspiration, but also be inspired by what you have to bring to the table itself.
Yeah, oh, I love that so much. And it's so special, like, to get to see those people that have inspired you and how, like you said, they've emulated your journey. But I recently found this quote and, like, it's been my motto. It's, "Be yourself because you never know who you're going to be inspiring." Like, you're inspiring just by being yourself, and I think that's so special because it goes for everything that I stand for at the show. Like, everyone who comes on the show has just inspired me by being their authentic self, whether they've inspired me as a person, as an actor, and I just think it's so special to get to see how that's been done.
Oh,
So
I love that.
so excited to get to do this. This is a fun little rapid fire segment. So some of
Oh,
the
let's go.
questions we've already touched on, you've already answered, but these are like quick, just like throw it. So
Okay.
you've done both film and theater. Preference,
Theater.
always. Favorite role you've played, first role you've played.
First role, the genie in Aladdin, and favorite. Oh, I really like Young Rabbi. I really like Young Rabbi.
Yes. Favorite show you've been in and your all-time favorite show.
Oh, my all-time favorite show is Sweet Todd.
Yes.
Um, and oh God, it's like boring to say Harmony, but I love Harmony. Harmony or Memphis. Those two are special.
Yes. Go-to audition song.
Wandering from the Bridges of Madison County.
So good. Favorite Harmony song.
Oh, Stars in the Night.
Same. Your
Yeah.
biggest inspiration.
My biggest inspiration.
Yeah.
Uh, I love Norbert Leo Butz.
So good.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
last but not least, your favorite part about being an actor.
I love storytelling. I think it's an incredible art form that's been around since, cavemen and everything. And I think it's so amazing to watch, like we said before, hundreds of people do their own little job to build one thing. And, being an actor is a small part of that. And I just love being part of that community.
Yeah, that's so special. Matthew, thank you so much for joining me on the Inspiration Show. It was such an honor to get to speak with you and to get to watch you shine. I am so grateful and so honored to have you in my life. Thank you for inspiring me.
Oh, thank you so much. Your kindness meant the world to me, and this is such a blast to do.
Thank you.